Okay, so the Urdu version of my video, I did the same on the back. I'm just going to go on to explain in English what I did with the Urdu version, and that was that I marked it out according to what my measurements were, and it really makes no difference whether you can see the markings or not. You really want to understand the explanation, because if you're cutting your own, you're not looking at my markings, but you're looking at my instructions, and if you're able to interpret those instructions for yourself, then you will achieve the result. Okay, so the way to understand the instructions is you're taking your measurements for the shoulder, the bust area, the waist area, the top of the your shoulder to your waist area, hip area, and then you've got to decide what daman you want to keep and so on. Now I'm going to cut according to what I've cut the back one, and that is basically your shoulder. I'm not going to bother cutting the depth of the sleeve yet. I'm going to cut this in 2 goes because I want to finish off the neckline and then press it. And the most important thing is, right, to get the layout of the fabric correct. So with one of these grid mats, what you'll be able to see is just how much. Once I've taken this piece away, now you can see where the curves have been created, what the actual cutting out area is, because you're leaving a close-up of this will actually show you and give you a more clear vision of what's being cut. Okay, so if you look on here, this is a close-up of the arm area, and that, if you look at it as a grid, and then this excess has been taken out. Now there's a couple of suggestions I normally give when it comes to after sorting this out and not attaching the sleeves on, doing the side seams and trying out your kameez and just having a look where it's sitting on your shoulders, because if this is sitting overhanging off your shoulder, then you really should be deepening this so that it is sitting on the outer side of your armhole area, just slightly sitting on the outside, so that it gives you enough seaming allowance, and you can do the seaming, and then it sits perfectly on the point where perhaps a good fitting kameez would sit. Anyway, that's just a few hints on how to use the grid mat and how to lay out the perfect fabric. When you hold your fabric like this, it should not have any lechuk, whereas if you can you see the lechuk in here? If you held it slightly, cut the fabric at a slightly angle, then you would get this kind of a pull here, and that's what you want to avoid. Often where that's reflected is when you're turning the hem, again, when you hold this, you should be able to hold this without having a pull, because if you have this fabric, can you see the actual inline is somewhere there, and when I turn the hem on this, you generally have to do it very carefully, otherwise your fabric will start pulling. But with a lot of these, what I often advise is underlining the hem area, or even adding things like laces and so on that weights it down and gives a better hanging, and it eliminates that pull or the stiffness. I mean, I've seen loads of dresses that have been designed by so-called tailors, and yet the result is lacked because they've not looked into how to level out their fabric. Okay, so this is a perfectly laid out fabric. Now I'm just gonna these are the leftovers, and don't forget to keep a watch out on the actual teachings on the leftovers, because I will be doing a very, very pretty desk for my little princess out of these leftovers. So again, we're gonna look at where this is sitting straight. Okay, this is like sitting straight here, and you can see that if I was to level these two up, there is absolutely no way that I can level them out and not get, I mean, I'm gonna add a piece anyway, but this is where it's actually sitting. So since we've gone and cut one sleeve out, we'll just use so the underside of this now, it needs a piece on here and it needs a piece on here. You can see where the armhole so you can see how well the shape of the arm has been cut, and take away just a little bit more, give it more of a curve on the armhole.